God.
A beloved grandmother is found viciously stabbed to death.
Yet this little old lady, what has she done to anyone in her whole life? What kind of a monster would do this?
To crack the case, a young Joe Kenda must wade through a swamp of false leads and dirty dealings.
What's that on your pants?
How nice. Family that drinks together stays together, I suppose.
And unearth a fiendish plot to kill a helpless victim.
He had a fetish, and he needed control.
Welcome to Homicide, Kenda. It's a disgusting business.
You're trying to put together a giant puzzle. You have 1,000,000 pieces, and maybe you only need 300. So you have to figure out which one fits where.
There's one thing that never changes. Murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
This is 1979, and Charles Jackson is driving to his grandmother's house.
Charles called on her a little earlier and did not get an answer. This worried him, so he decided to check in on her.
Grandma? Grandma? It's Charlie. Grandma? Are you here? Grandma?
How? There are dishes in the sink, and there's a faucet dripping, both of which are very unlike her.
Are you here?
And it's unspeakable.
Oh my...
Just a few miles away, rookie detective Joe Kenda is settling nicely into his new role with Colorado Springs PD.
Nice job on that interro, Kenda. Thanks, Lou. I appreciate that. You're really coming along.
Late August of 1979. I was a detective in this Crimes Against Persons unit.
Hey, boys. Just got a call about a body out on East Monument. Smith, ready for another one?
You got it.
It's all yours.
So this particular case, Lou Smith was the person assigned as the lead detective. Smith was extremely experienced and was a phenomenal detective.
You need help with that? Oh, I'm sure I will. Meet me at the scene when you can. See you soon.
Within minutes, Detective Lou Smith arrives on scene.
When Smith arrives, it's the usual circus of marked units and all the chaos that goes on when you arrive at a homicide scene.
Evening, Detective.
Huntley. Clue here.
Victim is an 85-year-old elderly female named Catherine Simpson.
Heart attack?
I'm afraid not. Her grandson found her inside with multiple stab wounds. The scene is pretty gruesome.
All right. Well, let's take a look. No sign of forced entry.
None that I can tell.
This belong to the victim?
Yes, sir.
She's got over $50 here.
The victim's purse does not appear disturbed, and the first deduction you might get out of that is this doesn't appear to be a robbery.
What's this?
There's a pair of women's underwear on the floor.
This could just be misplaced, but Let's make sure we bag that in case it plays into what happened.
When he goes into that kitchen, he sees some dirty dishes in the sink. He also sees a blue apron on the floor that appears to be damaged slightly.
Let's make sure we bag this as well.
Yes, sir.
Noticing underwear and a torn apron in the kitchen, you're starting to think this is possibly some kind of personal attack.
Where's the body?
It's in the bedroom this way.
My God.
This was a very gruesome scene. The victim had been stabbed multiple times, was laying on the bed.
There is a pair of scissors planted in her chest, all the way up to the handles.
Poor lady.
Her dress is torn and her slip is above her waist. There is no underwear present, indicates the likelihood of sexual assault is very great.
What is that under her? Is that a yardstick? What the hell?
That seems very odd. Why would this yardstick be underneath her on this bed?
The body's still warm, too.
So this is a very fresh case. She's only been dead a short period of time.
Who did you say discovered the body?
The victim's grandson.
Oh, I think maybe I should probably speak with him.
It's not this way.
The obvious concern is you have a little old lady. She's been assaulted and murdered in her own home. What kind of a monster would do this?
It just doesn't make sense. Mr. Jackson, I'm Detective Smith.
Hi.
I'm very sorry for what happened to your grandmother.
Charles is, of course, immensely distressed. He has seen what has happened to his grandmother.
Can you tell me about your grandmother? Were you close with her?
Yeah, we were really close. She basically raised my brother and I.
He informed Smith that she's lived in Colorado Springs since 1920, and she's been in this particular house for over 20 years.
She was 85 years old. You couldn't tell.
She stays active tending her garden out back, especially her prized tomatoes. So she's not an invalid by any means.
Did she say anything was wrong when you talked with her?
No, everything was fine. And then when I tried to get a hold of her this afternoon, she didn't answer.
What was a typical day like for your grandmother?
Mr. Jackson said that his grandmother was a creature of habit. She would eat her dinner at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and would immediately do the dishes.
Looking at the scene, we see that the dishes haven't been done.
She was probably attacked while she was in the act of cleaning up, which would have been shortly after 4 o'clock that afternoon.
Thank you for your time, Charles. And I promise we're going to find who did this to your grandmother. How you doing? Candy, you're just in time. So what can I do? Help me canvass this neighborhood. It's likely the suspect went in through the back of the house. They need to find out if someone saw or heard anything suspicious. Makes sense.
This was a small community, little neighborhood. They keep an eye out for one another. So we're hoping somebody saw something.
And we can start with that guy.
Smith looks at the house next door and sees a man sitting on the porch drinking a beer, obviously taking in the activity of the police.
Evening, detectives.
You live here?
No. House sitting for my parents. They're out east on vacation.
I'm Detective Smith. This is Detective Kenda.
James DeCoy. What happened over there?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. Did you happen to see any strange activity at Mrs. Simpson's house today?
Nope. Can't say that I did.
He says he remembers seeing Catherine Simpson in her backyard gardening, which he says is her habit, and he became sleepy and he went inside and took a nap. And he was awakened by the police activities.
What time would you say you took that nap?
Oh, about 3 o'clock or so.
Sir,
What's up, Dan?
we got a call of a potential suspect in a park down the street.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Mr. DeCohen. If you should happen to remember anything else you saw, you give us a call.
Will do.
When Smith talks to this guy, Smith gets that old feeling. There's something about James DuCoin that just isn't quite right, and Smith makes a mental note of that.
I'm gonna go check this out. Continue canvassing the area, will you? You got it.
So Detective Smith responds to the neighborhood park where patrol officers are holding a underage 17-year-old male.
What's your name, son? Cole? Cole? Cole what?
Cole Michaels. This guy looks like he's been drinking. He's a little bewildered, a little disheveled. He doesn't know what's going on.
What are you doing out here by yourself, Mr. Michaels? Wait a minute. What's that on your pants? Looks like blood.
This is really starting to pique our interest because obviously we have a bloody scene and the person who did this did not walk away without any blood on him.
Yeah, I cut myself.
Oh, yeah? On what?
Who is he? Is he just some kid who has an injury from some other source? Or is he a murderer who killed a little old lady in a house next door? We're investigating the brutal homicide of Catherine Simpson, who has been stabbed to death with a pair of scissors and possibly sexually assaulted in the process. And we have found a young man, drunk with blood in his jeans, in very close proximity to this home.
A quick records check reveals a bench warrant out for Cole Michaels' arrest.
So they inform Cole he's under arrest and take him into police headquarters and question him further about this murder.
Put your hands over the table like this. Palms down. This individual was 17 years old. Flip them over. Colorado law states that a minor can't be present.
While they're waiting for the mom to show up, they are permitted to take evidence from this person. So they're taking photographs of his injuries, and they're also swabbing his hands to see what they may find in a laboratory as to what may be on his hands.
Within the hour, Cole Michaels' mother arrives at the station and grants an interview with police.
So you think my son is involved in a murder?
Quite possibly.
Cole, is he serious?
Mom, I didn't do anything. I swear.
For anyone who's had a teenager, this is like your worst nightmare.
Your son was found sleeping on a park bench with blood on his clothing, less than 4 blocks from a murder scene, and we'd like to know why that is.
You told me you were staying with your brother.
It was, but he and I,
Look, okay, Cole. Just why don't you start by telling us exactly what happened today?
Okay.
This individual explained that on this particular day he'd worked till about 3 o'clock. After work, he went out drinking with his friends till about 1 o'clock, at which time he went to the park to sleep, and that's where he was contacted.
He tells Smith, I've been staying with my brother, but we got in an argument and he threw me out, and I've been sleeping in the park for the last couple of nights.
Unbelievable. You should have told me. Instead, you're sleeping in a park like a wild animal and...
Okay, Cole. Then what happened?
I fell asleep at the park, and next thing I know, officers are shining a light in my face, and...
So you went directly to the park after being downtown?
Yeah.
And you didn't stop someplace?
No.
And this cut on your hand?
I got it at work yesterday. I must have nicked it again today.
Now, this kid has an explanation for his whereabouts, but is it true? Maybe. Maybe not. Smith's not going to just believe him.
Detective Smith calls the lab to see if the samples taken from Cole earlier corroborate his story.
Okay. Thanks for calling.
And none of his samples match anything found at the crime scene. So there is nothing to connect him to this offense other than proximity, which is not enough.
With his first lead a bust, Detective Smith hopes the autopsy might turn up new evidence.
Okay, Doc, what you got?
Well, no surprises in terms of what killed our victim.
Cause of death is from internal bleeding from multiple stab wounds to the chest.
We did notice something interesting regarding evidence of a sexual assault.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
There isn't any.
What? I get it.
That seems very odd. If you're going to tear clothing and remove underwear, what is it that you're doing?
How often do you see clothing disturbed like that and no evidence of sexual assault?
Hardly ever.
So maybe his attempt was disturbed by something.
That's very possible. This perpetrator may have had one thing in mind, and it got changed, and in a fit of rage, he kills her, and he runs.
Thank you for this, Doc.
You bet. Good luck.
The autopsy results raise even more questions about this person. Who is this? What is this?
Hey, Lou. Call just came in for you.
Who is it?
Charles Jackson. Says he's grandson of last night's murder victim.
I'll take that.
Good.
Hey, Charles. Detective Smith.
Hi, Detective.
What's going on?
So, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but my brother and I were going through my grandmother's finances, and we found something that's a little bit strange.
Charles notices that she has not deposited any of her stock dividends or Social Security checks for the last 2 years. And this is a little unusual.
2 years? Any idea how much money that might be?
$5,000 or $6,000.
So she would cash her checks, and she would keep the money in First National Bank manila envelopes.
Any idea where she might have kept it?
Well, whenever I'd take her grocery shopping, she would usually go into her bedroom and get money out from under the dresser.
Her dresser? So, how does a little old lady like that stuff cash way under there?
It's actually kind of funny. She would use a yardstick.
Smith almost dropped the phone. He'd been wondering all along why there's a yardstick on the bed.
This is actually very helpful. Thank you.
Knowing that she kept money under the dresser, we had to go back and examine it, and we found out that it was gone.
So now Smith understands more about this event. It still doesn't explain why he disrobed her, but he attacked and killed her after he got the money. So why look in the purse? You've got $5,000 in cash, so you don't need to look in the purse. You need to run before somebody finds you.
Meanwhile, Kenda hopes that recanvassing the neighborhood can turn up new leads.
Do you remember any suspicious activity over at Catherine's house? People going in and out?
Myself and my partner were assisting Smith in this investigation, trying to locate witnesses.
No, I was out of the house most of the day. My wife wasn't home either.
Okay. What about unfamiliar faces in the neighborhood? Anything like that?
I haven't seen anybody like that. But there is somebody that I've been a little worried about.
Who's that?
His name's Daryl. A number of people in the neighborhood have had their houses broken into recently, and I think he's the one doing it.
They identified this individual as a white male in his 40s, and what they really were concerned about is that he supposedly always carries a handgun.
He definitely gives me the creeps.
Do you know where Daryl lives?
Yeah, it's just down the street. The Blue House.
Thank you for your help.
Well, let's go see Daryl and see what value he may have in this case.
Can I help you?
What they find when they get there is some highly intoxicated individuals partying early and midday.
Morning, gentlemen. What can I do for you?
It's not a crime to be drunk at 11 o'clock in the morning. Could he be drinking that early because he's in celebration of $5,000 coming into his possession? Is he a potential killer? We're investigating the death of Catherine Simpson, the 85-year-old woman brutally stabbed to death. when my partner and I discovered this individual who has been named by neighbors as a prowler that hangs around this neighborhood.
Darren, when did you tell us where you were yesterday afternoon?
Yes. I was here most of the day.
Doing what?
You know, throwing a couple back with my mom and pop.
How nice. Family that drinks together stays together, I suppose.
Were you here all day?
No, I went down to the dog track around 3 or so. It's usually what I do.
The dog track in Colorado Springs was a greyhound dog racing track with limited stakes gambling.
Did you go there with anybody?
No, I was there by myself. What are you asking me all these questions for?
Darren, we need to know where you were when your neighbor Catherine Simpson was killed.
An old lady? No, I ain't have nothing to do with that.
Is there anyone that can verify you with the dog park?
You know, I think I have a betting slip around here somewhere. Let me check. I'll be right back. Stay there. Okay. Somewhere. There it is. Here.
They show a timestamp for the day of the murder where he's gambling from 3 p.m. in the afternoon until they close at 9 o'clock that night.
Yeah. Hey, Mom!
So Daryl is interesting, pathetic, a drunk, and maybe a burglar, but he's not a killer. He has no opportunity to commit this crime.
With leads disappearing before his eyes, Smith joins the canvas in hopes of drumming up a new one.
Excuse me.
Is this about Catherine?
Yes. Any of these neighbors have any issues with Catherine?
No, I can't imagine that anyone would have a problem with her. But I do remember she complained about a neighbor of hers.
She did explain that Catherine complained to her numerous times, but the people who were living next to her were very weird.
Weird.
Especially the son. She had a bad feeling about the son.
Do you know the name?
I don't remember the parents' names, but the son was James DeCoin.
This is the very same fellow that Smith had this awkward feeling about. The guy sitting on the porch drinking beer next door, James DeCoin.
Now we're getting information that Detective Smith's feelings probably were justified. Something doesn't add up with this individual. It's time to go back and talk to him.
Can I help you?
Detective Smith, CSPD?
Yeah?
Is James DeCoin here?
No. I'm Colin, his brother. This is my wife, Lydia.
Hi.
Do you know where your brother is?
No, we've been trying to figure that out ourselves.
Colin says, we came over to clean the house before my parents returned from their vacation, but we find that it was already clean when we arrived. James is gone, and all of his stuff is gone.
Any idea where he may have gone?
No, I mean, he didn't leave a note or anything, and couldn't have went far. He's broke.
Colin says he doesn't have a car, he doesn't have any money to call a cab, he doesn't have anything.
Why are you looking for him anyway? Is this about the old lady next door?
Lydia pipes up and says that she had read about this homicide in the paper, and she started getting a bad feeling and was concerned that he may be involved.
Why do you say that?
Well, he's had some issues with the law before. In fact, he just got out of jail in Pueblo not too long ago.
For what?
Sexual assault.
Every alarm that Smith has in his head is going off about James DeCoin. How did he get gone? He didn't have any money. He's been in jail for sexual assault. Mr. DeCoin is not just a person of interest now. He's a suspect.
Last name is DeCoin. D-U-C-O-I-N.
Following up with Pueblo PD as to James's original charges, we find out that he was released about 10 days ago. He's supposed to contact his probation officer in 5 days.
If he checks in with that probation officer, I'm going to need you guys to hold him, okay? Okay, thanks a lot, John.
Special delivery. I just barely beat the garbage truck.
Bring it to the conference room.
At this point, the case is starting to focus more on James. We knew that he just cleaned up the house, so one possible area where we might find some evidence is in the trash.
Okay, dump it.
Here?
Yeah, right on the table. Dump it out. Oh, man. Welcome to Homicide, Kenda. It's a disgusting business. Get used to it.
You dump the trash on the table, and you go through it one piece at a time. Not the glamorous part of the occupation.
Garbage is like hieroglyphics. You can find out a lot of stuff from garbage.
Very bright. They tend to throw things away that might incriminate them or demonstrate their involvement in a crime.
What do you got there? It's an envelope. It looks like it's been burnt. What kind of envelope? The kind you get money from a bank in. Another one right here.
Well, my. Now, what are you doing with those, Jimmy? We have focused on an individual who lives next door as the prime suspect in the case, one James DuCoin. And we have discovered that he may have destroyed evidence before vacating his house. So we sit down and reason that if he has no car, how does he leave the property? He calls a cab because now he has money. So we go to the cab companies in town.
I'm not seeing anything in that area on the 29th.
What about the 30th?
Okay, here we go. I'm seeing a pickup on East Monument around 8:45 a.m.
They find out that they did pick up an individual at the residence where James was living and took him over to the area of Garden of the Gods.
That's got to be him. What's the exact address where he was dropped off?
I'm actually not seeing one. It looks like he was just dropped off at the intersection of Garden of the Gods Road and Nevada Avenue.
He could have been going anywhere.
The frustrating part of that is that was mostly small retail shops, so it's like, okay, needle in a haystack here.
Yeah, we could get a canvas started in the area. It's going to take some time, but I suppose we might as well. Thank you for your help.
Sure thing.
While Kenda and other investigators scour Garden of the Gods for a witness, Detective Smith locates another potentially helpful source.
Lucy, thank you for agreeing to see me today.
No problem.
While we're doing the cab thing, Smith is trying to locate any known associates. When people run, they contact people they know. So Smith finds his ex-wife.
After we got divorced, I basically cut off all contact.
Why was that?
He couldn't control his drinking. I put up with it for a while, but then he started getting pretty violent.
She said, at one point he held me at knife point for 2 hours. Said he was going to cut my throat. Oh, that's nice. Anything else?
It wasn't just the violence. He was also into some pretty weird stuff. Sexually.
What do you mean?
So at this point, the story takes a really creepy and interesting twist. She said he had taken her to one of the few hotels at that time that showed pornographic movies. And he tied her to the bed for 2 hours while he attempted to masturbate with essentially no success.
So, when that would happen, would he become violent?
No, he would just get really frustrated.
So how does all that fit together with our crime scene, where we have a woman forcibly disrobed and no evidence of sexual assault? The obvious conclusion is Mr. DuCoin is not capable of sexual assault. Even though he may have the desire, he doesn't have the ability.
Do you remember the name of that motel?
Yeah, it's the Pink Panther over on Nevada Avenue by Garden of the Gods.
Well, isn't that interesting? The day after the murder, he's dropped within a block of the Pink Panther motel by a car and heads for the Pink Panther. See if they have a record of James DuCoin getting a room.
DuCoin?
D-U-C-O-I-N?
Nothing with the name DuCoin, but to be honest, I doubt he would have checked in under his real name. Most guys don't.
What about a face? You recognize him?
Oh, yeah, sure. I remember this guy. He was here a couple of nights this week.
James had stayed there the 30th and the 31st. That had been the day after the murder and the subsequent day after that.
How'd he pay for his room?
Cash. He slipped me a couple extra bucks to turn the pornos on early.
Did you happen to notice if he had a fair amount of cash on him?
Oh, yeah, he had to have. I saw one of them call girls going in and out of his room a couple of times, and they ain't cheap.
For a man who is broke, where did he get this money? We're thinking he got it from the little old lady that he murdered.
While the circumstances point to James DuCoin murdering Catherine Simpson, Smith would feel much more comfortable if he had some hard evidence to back it up.
Hey, Lou. What's going on, Kevin? Got some news back from the lab. They examined those burnt envelopes. Guess where they came from? First National Bank. The same bank that Catherine Simpson cashed her checks at.
I'll be damned. Let's go to the judge to get an arrest warrant.
So now there's no doubt in our minds that James DuCoin is our killer. Now it's a matter of running him to ground. We're going to find him and arrest him for first-degree murder.
But investigators quickly learn that might be easier said than done.
In the course of hunting him down, we find a sister in California who says that she got a phone call from James DuCoin from a payphone in Florida. What does that mean to us? Mr. DuCoin has crossed a state line.
But sadly, investigators fail to find James DuCoin, and the case goes cold.
There are some cases that are so disgusting and so abhorrent and so violent that they don't ever go away. They just don't. And Catherine Simpson is one of those cases. It just bothered me to no end. Where are you, you son of a bitch? Where are you? So 12 years on from this event, I am now a supervisor in homicide.
It's Kenda.
The phone rings in my office, and it's the FBI.
DuCoin. Yeah, of course I remember that one. You're kidding. No, I'll send someone down right away. Thank you.
They have found James DuCoin in New Orleans, Louisiana. Finally, the long arm of the law has reached out and tapped James DuCoin on the shoulder. You are responsible for murdering a little old lady. You thought we forgot, but we don't forget, and we don't forgive. The case of Catherine Simpson being murdered and robbed goes on for 12 years. We had identified the perpetrator as James DuCoin, but we couldn't find him. Then in 1991, he gets found.
Afternoon, Lieutenant. You wanted to see me?
Hey, Steve. You heard about the arrest of that cold case suspect down in New Orleans?
Absolutely.
Detective Smith had retired from the police department at that point, so there's no way he could get involved in it. Detective Wood was in homicide at the time, and Wood had an excellent talent for interrogation.
All right, tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
So Wood goes to New Orleans, meets up with an FBI agent. They go to the field office where DuCoin is being held.
So you've already spoken with DuCoin?
Briefly, right after we arrested him.
When the FBI found him, they did so because Mr. DuCoin had applied for an identification in the state of Louisiana. And for some reason, he used his real name, and it popped up in the FBI database.
Mr. DuCoin, I'm Agent York. This is Detective Wood.
Mr. DuCoin, I was wondering if you might answer a few questions for me.
About what?
About a little old lady named Catherine Simpson, found murdered in Colorado Springs in 1979.
I don't know nothing about that.
She completely denies any knowledge of the investigation, but Detective Wood continues to work and talk to him.
How did you get into her house?
I told you, man. I have no idea what you're talking about.
James. Can I call you James? Why did you have to stab a little old lady with scissors? Do you think she deserved that?
I ain't a violent person, man. I didn't do that.
And maybe you're not now, but you were then, James. It's gotta be eating you up inside. Why don't you just let it out?
All right. The hell with it.
Wood gets to him. It takes him a while, but he gets to him.
You got a cigarette? Outside having a drink. I saw the old broad putting around in her garden.
And he thinks, a little old lady like that probably has money squirreled away in her house. James DuCoin doesn't have 10 cents.
Later that day, I saw that her back door was open. I saw that as my opportunity.
Please don't.
Where's the money?
Please don't. I got some in here. Please don't hurt me. Oh.
He says she doesn't resist him. She takes him into the bedroom.
Got your own little bank here.
He says that when he's down working on these envelopes, Catherine Simpson suddenly starts screaming for help in a really loud voice. It startles him.
I tried to quiet her down, but I couldn't. I panicked. I stabbed her.
If you look at his story, it's full of holes. It doesn't fit the evidence at the scene.
When investigators found Catherine's body, her skirt was hiked up and her underwear on the floor. Did you try to sexually assault Catherine?
No. No way. It's just, I hadn't seen a woman in some time, if you know what I mean.
He tries to explain that by saying he was in jail for a while and he just wanted to look, so he pulled down the top to expose a breast, and he pulled up the bottom and took off her panties and threw them in the living room.
James, that doesn't sound all that believable to me.
Well, I don't care what you think. That's what happened, all right?
He confesses to this crime. Is he willing to tell Wood everything? No. Criminals are very odd in that regard. They will find certain things that they won't admit to, certain things they don't want you to know, certain things that embarrasses them.
Get on the bed.
What? You got what you wanted. Just go.
Not yet, I don't.
What likely happened was he had a fetish and he needed control. And here he was with this 85-year-old woman. He was going to get what she had and dominate her to the best of his ability as he did that.
There are scissors on top of the dresser. He grabs the scissors and he stabs her 7 times in the chest.
Where did you go after you killed her?
Back to my parents. Took a bath. Fell asleep. Woke up to all the sirens.
Do you remember talking to a Detective Smith?
I do.
He says Smith freaked him out.
I burned all the envelopes. Cleaned the place up. Then I left.
So he left that house the next day and stayed at the Pink Panther for 2 nights. He bought a $70 bus ticket in Colorado Springs, and then he went to Florida and stayed there for years.
I eventually made my way to New Orleans under a fake name.
So what made you apply for a license under your real name?
I was just tired, you know.
He said he stayed away from people, and he got very lonely, and he was distressed at having to lie about who he was.
I couldn't take it anymore.
There are some people, they won't admit it to you, but they want to be punished. They know what they did was a horrible thing, and their guilt eats away at them, an inch at a time.
Although Ducoin's confession leaves much to be desired, he is formally charged with first-degree murder.
James Ducoin pled guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison. This case is an illustration of why humans are so dangerous. At this little old lady, what has she done to anyone in her whole life? To suffer a violent end over a little bit of money. It's insane. It is insane what people will do. And the more you see of it, the more disgusted you become. When you have a truly innocent victim, it becomes inspiring to find who's responsible.